So in this video, we're going to be taking a look at simple interest, and we are on page 7 of your packet. And I wanted to remind you guys that interest can be both a good thing and a bad thing, depending on how you look at it. If you're saving money, and whether it's in your bank account, whether it's in stock, your retirement account, or certificates of deposit, that's what CDs are. They're just a short-term savings plan. You like interest in those situations because it's going to add extra money into your account. Now, sometimes when you're borrowing money, like for a loan, whether it's for a new car, buying a house, or any other major purchase, it could be like student loans for college, things like that. In that situation, interest kind of stinks because that means that you're going to be paying back a lot of extra money on top of it. So when you're saving money, again, that's a good thing, but when you're borrowing money or spending money, interest is a bad thing. Now here we've got I equals PRT as our formula, and the I stands for the amount of interest. Again, interest could be earned or owed. The principal is just the starting amount of money, so like the amount of money that you're borrowing from the bank, or the amount of money that you're putting into a savings account. And R is the rate, and we're going to talk about the fact that the rate's going to be given to you as a percent, but you're going to convert it to a decimal when you plug it into the calculator. And T for time, and time is always going to be in years, and I'll clarify that sometimes instead of having months. You never want to use months, you want to use years, okay? So some of the problems will be giving you months, like if something is going to be in a bank account for 3 months, you just got to think about what part of the year that is. So 3 months out of 12 months would really just be 1/4, and so that'd be a fourth of a year, and we'd put that in for time. So again, here's your reminders, helpful hints. You're always going to change R, the rate, from a percent to a decimal before plugging it into your formula. Time is always going to be in years. Even if it mentions months in the problem, we'll convert it over to parts of the year. So if months are given, convert it like it says. So simple interest for a number of years is determined by multiplying this principal by the rate by the amount of time that it's going to be either invested or borrowed. So the total value of the loan or the investment is equal to the principal, the starting amount, plus the interest earned or owed. So let's walk our way through this first example now. We've got that Stephen borrowed $20,000, that's the principal, from the bank account to buy, or from his bank to buy a car. Now his interest rate was 3.5%, and he's going to be paying it off over the course of 5 years. So again, for the interest, we have the principal times the rate as a decimal times the amount of time in years, and since 5 years is already given in years, we're good to go. Now all you have to do is multiply, and let me get my calculator out, and if you have your calculator to do the math with me to make sure you see the same thing, it's the $20,000 times the 0.035, remember you got to move the decimal back twice, and then we're going to multiply it. So that says right there that 3.5% interest of 20,000 for 1 year would be $700. And now we're going to hit times 5. And so it looks like the interest on this account is going to be $3,500. And again, that's the number that we just got in the calculator. So what that means is if Stephen borrowed $20,000 from the bank to buy a car, he's going to have to pay back this much extra in interest. So if it ever asks how much simple interest will he owe, you could just stop right there. The question might ask you to take it a step further and say, so what's the total value of the loan that he's going to be paying back to the bank? So if he originally borrowed $20,000 and he's going to have to pay them an additional $3,500 in interest, we get that eventually he'd be paying the bank a total of $23,500. Okay? So if you want to pause the video and then just try the next one on your own, that'd be great. And then you can just hit play and I'll keep walking you through it. All right, so for the next one here, Tiffany invested $8,000. That's the principal, the starting amount. So this time she's investing. Savings account earned at 1.5% interest annually. And we want to know how much interest will this account earn after 4 months. So because we're asking about months here, just think about 4 months out of the 12. That reduces here to a third. And we can just use the 0.33, even though it would continue on. We'll just use 0.33. And the reason we'll just use 0.33, y'all, is because we're dealing with money. And if money rounds to the nearest hundredth anyways, then we might as well just go ahead and round it right here to the nearest hundredth, okay? So the next step would be to multiply the $8,000 that she's investing times the 0.015 interest rate that she gets, and then times the 0.33. All right, so let me get my calculator out. And we've got 8,000 times 0.015, careful with that decimal when you move it twice, and then times 0.33. So that basically means that she'll have earned an additional $39.60, 39.60. That's how much extra money she'll have in her account after just 4 months. So if we add that into the original amount that she invested, she's now going to add that $39.60, and her account balance after those 4 months is going to be $8,039.60. So this is another situation where it's going to be up to you to read the problems carefully to see, is it asking just how much interest in the problem, or is it asking for the total? I've now walked you guys through 2 examples here. One of them was talking about borrowing money, which means you're going to owe the bank extra money in the long run. And the second example was about investing money, which means when you put money into savings, it accrues or builds in interest after a certain amount of time, and you'll be saving more and more and more money after you've invested it. Now, number 3, you should be able to do on your own, and I'm actually going to skip over now in the video to walk you guys through, whoops, not that page. I'm going to now have you guys flip over to page 8. I'm going to walk you through question 4. Now, question 4 here is a little bit different because instead of asking for the interest and then giving you P, R, and T, this problem is telling you how much interest was earned. It's telling you the starting amount and how much time, but we want to solve for R. So just like the volume and then the length, width, and height problem that we might talk about, you're going to multiply here the 2,500 is the principal, and you're going to multiply it by the 3 to get a coefficient. And so we've got 7,500 as my coefficient over here. Now on this side, when we take the 1,500 and divide it by that coefficient, we have now solved for R. It's a lot like solving for the width. Solving for the width when you divide away the L and the H. And so over here, we talked about that volume problem where to solve for W, you just take this number and divide by that coefficient over there. So if it ever asks you for the interest rate, all you're doing is multiplying these 2 numbers together, and then you divide the interest to get R. Now we move the decimal over twice, and it looks like it'd be a 20% interest rate. That was the interest rate that was used for quick cash if you take out just a small loan and try to pay it back within 3 years. Now we've talked a lot about different interest rates, and you can see here that 20%, that's a pretty high interest rate. That's a lot to have to pay back in addition. The $1,500 is a lot to have to pay back in addition to only the $2,500 that you borrowed. So with places like this, again, they're not necessarily super established banks. They're probably going to charge higher interest rates like the 20%. And that concludes our video on simple interest. Thank you.